Man, I hate it when this happens. Jeez, just hold on, guys. Just don't worry. It's okay. Jeez. Man, this is like my worst nightmare. I was preparing the whole time. I don't even know how to double knot. Okay, here we go. Now that, kids, is why you should always tie your shoes. All right, so at a young age, I had a pretty standard upbringing. I would wake up, eat cereal, go to school, hang out with classmates when I could, you know, rinse and repeat. It kind of felt like I had a void in my life, and I was bursting out of my seams with potential energy. Without being in any club or sport or activity or really anything to keep me busy, it became far too easy for me to fall in with the wrong crowd. In an effort to become one of the cool kids, I started giving up more and more of who I was just to fit in with everybody else. Now, luckily for me, my parents, hey Mom, they recognized that there was emptiness in my life, and they offered me the chance to take any class of my choosing. I had recently attended this concert where there was a dancer that could pivot around on his head for over a minute straight. And just like that dancer, this became one of the most pivotal moments in my life. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a b-boy. Immediately after taking the class, I was hooked. This was not your average studio and choreography type dance. This was breaking, and there was a certain level of rawness to it that was exactly what I needed. I learned that there are more lines, shapes, and patterns in dance than there are in most paintings. How to connect with the music on a completely different level. Yeah. And I learned how to gain strength and momentum in ways I never thought possible. Yeah. And now, it was at this moment when something happened. Our little practice group began forming a community. Every single member of our community had different backgrounds with upbringings from places such as Ukraine, Canada, the Philippines, and even Japan. Even though we could all recognize that we were very different people, it was more important for us to look at what we had in common: movement. We learned that with something as simple as a basic drum beat in the background, we could use our movements to communicate with each other. Our movements became a translation of who we were, a window into our lives through which you could see our personalities, characteristics, and culture. Now, breaking has its roots with a variety of different dances, but what really made it into what it was today was from battling. In the 80s, there were always tons of parties and dances going on in New York, and it wasn't uncommon for rival gangs to end up at these parties together. And some gangs started using dance as a nonviolent way to solve their disputes at a party without ruining the vibe. In other words, if you got served, you had to go. Now, as time went on, people came out with crazier moves and pushed themselves past their physical limit just to gain the upper hand on the battlefield. And this had inspired me, and it changed the way I trained, and for a while, all I wanted to do was be the best. It felt like my duty to have the biggest and the coolest moves, and I was constantly trying to outdo everybody around me. And it seemed like I went from communicating to just plain showing off. And because I was doing it for all the wrong reasons, I eventually burned myself out. Now, a few years into dance, I was presented with the opportunity to learn how to coach gymnastics. I knew that gymnastics could help me improve my dance, so I was so excited, and I applied, and I was hired nearly on the spot at Spokane Gymnastics. Yeah. It was here that I realized even gymnastics has its own culture with a community of athletes and coaches and parents. Now, a couple years into coaching, I was asked to take over for a couple parkour classes. I'd seen parkour before on the internet, and it looked simple enough, just a bunch of guys doing flips and jumping off of buildings. So I took the classes, and before I knew it, my 2 classes had turned into 40, and we had a fully fledged parkour program. Parkour ended up being completely different than what I had originally thought. There was no competition in parkour, and it seemed like we were all on the same team. Anytime we would go to an event, you could see knowledge and information on techniques being passed freely amongst complete strangers. In a non-competitive environment like this, athletes were able to realize that it was not about being the best, but just about being better versions of themselves. And just like that, my fire was relit. I became so excited to get out there and help spread Spokane's community. And this is when I realized, if you are involved in some sort of physical activity, whether it be parkour or breaking, gymnastics, dance, skateboarding, rollerblading, you name it, there's always going to be some sort of community involved. These communities can help you learn and grow as an individual. This can happen through various methods, such as battling and competition, or even plain old discussion and information sharing. These communities can help you learn how to be passionate and fight for what you believe in, and you can meet lifelong friends along the way who will be there for you through thick and thin. Movement has always been an underlying factor in anything that I've done, and I now know my movements have served a higher purpose, the purpose of building community. I truly believe that movement is a tool we can use to transcend social barriers, such as language or race. And I know I would have never met these people on stage with me if I had never taken that first dance class. So, before we leave you all with one more treat, I'd like to say thank you to every single one of you for being part of my community. And thank you to all of you for helping me on stage today. Kai, Hector, Dalton, Hayden, Ryan, Daniel, thank you so much. Now what do you say we show these people what we got? Yeah. Woo!